Hello, welcome back to the Beacon of Light podcast. I know it's a Thursday and not a Tuesday. Well, sometimes life happens, but we are here to still follow through with the week, and we're really excited to have you here joining us. And we have an amazing guest. Her name is Estelle Gibson. And let me tell you, what's going to be happening tonight with this book is going to just knock your socks off. So before we start chatting, became chalking, chatting with her, we're going to jump into this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now. And we're back. Thank you all for popping up here live. I can see many of you, and this is really an exciting time. So, Estelle,
Yes.
What's up? What's happening? What's going on?
Finally. I'm getting my book launched. Yay. Yeah.
Excellent. This is so exciting. I know the concept of this book has been in your heart for decades. Like you've just known what to do. And the timing is probably amazing right now, where you've been thinking about it, putting things together. It's going to happen. Wait. And timing is really everything. So I wanted to ask you really about your title, because it is awesome. It is kick butt. It is really good. So tell me a little bit about this title.
Yeah, it actually has a couple meanings. So it has like three meanings. So poor by choice, the first meaning is people are financially dependent. And this book is about financial dependency, and it has three parts, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But people are financially dependent by choice or by circumstance. And I was financially dependent by choice. So that was my story. So that's a little bit of, that piece of it. And then the second piece is that, do we have a choice when it comes to our money? And when we think of what I call the money life cycle, we have a cycle of our life that we go through, starting at children, teenage, students, early career, having a family, retiring. There's a money life cycle. And through each stage of the money life cycle, you have different choices that you can make. You're presented with circumstances and situations during your money life cycle that you actually have a choice. For instance, for me, when it was time for me to go to college, my dad said that they couldn't afford it. So I could have chosen to live at home, go to school there, which would have been probably a very different trajectory for my life than picking a school that I wanted to go to, that worked for me, that I had to get student loans for, that I had to move 4 hours away from home. So in all these different stages of our life, and different from my divorce and having a child, we have choices that we can make about our money. So that's the second part about, do we have choice? And then the third one is kind of a rhetorical question, is, do we really have a choice? Do we have choice over what we, spend and what we do in our life? And a lot about what I go into in the book is that, is it really a choice, or are we driven by our environment that we grow up in, by the money stories that we learn, by the generational patterns that we bring forward in our money life cycle? And that was true for me in my money life cycle, that I fell into a pattern that was a learned pattern from my family.
And in that learned pattern, what made you break away from it or stay with it, or what happened?
So it was when I got divorced. I actually was in a marriage where my husband managed all the money, and I'm a financial professional, but it was easier for me to have him manage the money because I was working with people's money all day long. And so he was really good at it. So he managed the money. And then it became a problem when he asked for a divorce. And then he left, and I was left with a house I couldn't afford and bills I couldn't pay. And it was because of very typical things that happens to people. And I find mostly that one in a relationship, usually one person's manages the money. It's not likely that both of them do it at the same time. But when one person is managing the money, if you don't stay involved and informed, then you don't know what's going on. And so through that process of going through my divorce and then having to rebuild my life financially and emotionally, luckily I had a financial background, so I was able to do it. But what brought me to the environmental patterning was when I started to rebuild my life emotionally, and I started to do a lot of inner work and belief work and self development. And that's when I came to realize the patterns that I, grew up learning and playing out in my life.
The I love when you said this generational, like, learning about money.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting because I think some things have been accepted. Yeah, that was a generational pattern. And when you really look at poverty, when you look at excess, when you look at people that know how to manage things, I guess you could really look back at how the family of origin was for you. And it doesn't, rubber stamp guarantee like, oh, this is going to happen for you.
Right.
But the patterns might be there that are positive or negative. I
Absolutely.
remember one story from my own family. My grandmother, she had a little tiny account, which she would call her squirrel account. And because she was given a budget from her husband who
Mhm.
controlled the money. So she knew if she wanted anything, she had to make it work with what she was given. Now she
Right.
worked and her paycheck went to him and he decided what would happen. She got a percentage, whatever, an amount back. So she would just squirrel pieces of that away. And so if someone needed something, she would get that and go and give back or help somebody in need. And I didn't know the complexities. She's my grandma. I didn't know all of those things, but I remember where she hid it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Because if I started to save like that, then I would have something in the future. That's what I took from
Exactly.
that. And that's really positive. So saving is great. And I would guess along with that savings, it was more like saving out of trying to think of the sign of despair or worry,
Mm.
like
Mm.
that super rainy day, like, oh no, this can never be touched. And
Mm.
so since it could never be touched, maybe things in life that might be enjoyable weren't also touched, right? So an interesting story. And when I've been
Mhm.
examining more, I'm like, wow, this is, hmm, I had money there, but I
Right.
still felt poor. So the choices were really interesting. Were what or why you have this, but what if? What if? What if? So interesting,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and think about it, April, she made a choice to squirrel the money away instead of doing something else, right? So
Right.
that was the choice that she made. And that's how it works, that based on the situations and circumstances that are going on, we make choices. And she could have done that based on what she saw from her mother or grandmother, that this is how you do it. Yeah, my mom she used to call it mad money. Now that I think of it, it was like mad money. Was she mad and she kept that money? But she called it her mad money that she kept in a drawer. So I think that's a very common thing for women of a certain age, probably.
That's really true. So, in your book,
Mhm.
what do you hope to teach the people that are going to pick this up? Like, why or who should grab this book and read it?
So I'll talk about the parts of the book. So there's three parts to the book. The first part is a continuation of my TED talk and talks about financial dependency. Now, financial dependency is a broader definition than just if you're in a relationship and you're dependent on somebody. It is if you are definitely in a relationship, But if you are in a job and you feel like you can't leave your job because of whatever your financial situation is, whether it's you need the insurance, you have debt, you have family members you have to take care of, it can be adult children that have moved back home because of circumstances in their life. It can be an elderly person that is dependent on their family to manage their money. So, financial dependency is all of those things. And in the first part, it really is talking about what is financial dependency, how do people become financially dependent, how it affects them, and then what are the steps to overcome that. And there's a three-pillar approach that I talk about, which is awareness, information, and support. So that's part one. And then part two is my 5-step coaching process that I have used with clients over the years to take them through a process to go from where they are now to the dreams and desires that they have for their money. So I go into detail about that. And then part three is a continuation of the information piece. I actually was going to include it in the information chapter, and it got to be so large that I created a whole section. And it's basically my take and my spin on 6 major money topics. So instead of talking about a budget, I talk about no more money diets, because budgets are like diets and people don't want to go on them. And they usually will go on a spending spree, just like we do when we take a diet, we overeat afterwards. So I call it a spending plan that gives you choice and freedom. And I talk about saving, the different types of savings, investing, debt, and then how to pick your financial team. A lot of people have a lot of trouble um, looking for and finding financial professionals that they can trust and rely on. So I go into, the different types of financial professionals and what you can do to make sure that you pick the right one for you. So it's got a little bit of everything, April, but it's really for people that want to learn how to manage their money, learn about the limiting beliefs and the patterns that they have in their life. And so it's really for people that are ready to have a new experience with money and to take the steps needed to create their financial goals and dreams. And really, financial peace is the ultimate goal. So if you're looking for financial peace and you're in a situation where you may make a good amount of money, but you're still living paycheck to paycheck, if you do have debt, if you are in a financial dependency situation, so it's kind of for all that. So it's people that are in a overwhelm and frustration about their money, and that want to have a way that gives them a way out, that gives them stability, freedom, and power, a real solution that they can take some steps to make headway towards their big dream and their goals for their life.
It's interesting on this, the financial goals, the
Mhm.
people that are going to be helping you. I don't know what to do.
Yes,
And then the information overload. Well, they said gold. No, wait. They said that. No, wait. And the overwhelming happens. So then we just kind of keep it in the bank, or we just don't know what to do because of fear, right? Because it's money.
absolutely.
So what do we do? The best advice I ever was given was give your money, or give your money a job. Now, I don't know what you would think about that, but like basically give it an assignment, tell it what
Right.
to do. And then that way it helps to direct you in, if you've got a particular goal,
Mhm.
okay, so things are going to come in, all right, make a plan for it. Tell it, I need you assigned over here to pay this. I need you to be saved right here because in next summer we want to go on a trip. So
Yes.
this now, your assignment is for the trip. And it's very, very helpful. I want to practice and get better on
Mhm.
other things. And there's there's things where I can feel myself just stop. So here's the confessions, right?
Yeah.
When they talk about retirement, when they talk about
Mhm.
what age, how much will you have, I need my Big Bangs 1980s hair claw back to catch some of those things because I'm like, oh, that's nope. I have no idea. I
Yeah.
know certain amount comes out and it
Mhm.
goes into our retirement fund as a teacher. That's it. I'm like, I'm too taxed right now to understand tax. Haha. I am too taxed emotionally and feeling like too
Mhm.
many things. So I know that there's a retirement something, a certain amount gets out of my check, and that's all I can do right now. And
Yeah.
that's it. Right. So are there times when you feel that it's possible to go beyond just that, or how do you help people to get beyond that?
Well, and I do talk about that in the book because it's a very individualized thing. And part of, I want to address the first part, which is overwhelm. So there's so much information about money out in the world. And we are all individual, unique, different skills, different experiences, different beliefs, generational programming, and different wants and needs in our lives. So it's really important that people realize that, and I keep saying this in many different ways right now, that we're a population of one. So what is right for you is may not and probably isn't right for somebody else. So we have to start at the beginning. And the beginning, April, is deciding what you really want. So I have people start with what is the big dream in their life and what do they really want? And then we've got to narrow down from there. So you start with the goals or the big dream. And the reason we do that, and we pick what is the why behind that, because most of the times we want the thing that money provides. If we want more income, what is it that the more income provides? Is it more stability? Is it more confidence? Is it being able to take care of your family? And then what does that provide? It probably provides you with peace of mind and, you know, relief from fear. So we have to look at what are we really looking for. And the reason that I have people do that, and I talk about it in the book, is that when times get hard and you have to make decisions, and where you were talking about directing your money, when you have to make decisions about where you want to direct your money, having a greater why and a reason behind it makes making those choices and decisions a lot easier. So that's the first piece. The other piece is that there's so much information out there, and so many programs have you start into action first, and you really need to know where you're headed first before you can take the action. And I use the analogy of using your GPS. You pick a destination and you pick a starting point. You have to realize and recognize what am I doing now, and what am I starting with, what are my skills, what experience have I had, and then you can begin to put together a plan. And then the second piece I wanted to mention was when you talked about I'm putting it away for retirement, and and not worrying about it now. That's a key piece, because having automaticity, having things in place so that your money is being saved automatically, it's direct deposited, it's already being taken care of, and then it is beginning to accumulate. I also address in the book what I call the magic of interest, which is compound interest, to have people understand the benefit of time and putting money aside, and how it accumulates and how it doubles. In so many years it will double. So it's really important to learn some of these concepts and not narrow down so finely as to what's the exact day or month or year I'm going to retire, but what are some things that I can put in place that will give me that relief and peace of mind that things are happening and I can relax and I can decide how I'm going to enjoy my life and put some of those needs and wants in my goals so that I can achieve them along the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the achievable things along the way
Yeah.
really are exciting. And it comes back to this choice, right?
Yes.
It comes back to, um, I think, living beyond the survival of the situation. When you get hit out of left field, it feels really vulnerable. You're scared. And just as an example, we have some older vehicles and we
Mhm.
have choices to make. Okay. We can put money into the car to keep it going? Let's look at the price of that. Or do we want to go through all of this idea to try to get a new car? What are the pros and the cons of both sides? And we know that with, cars, vehicles, as soon as you drive it off the lot, things go down.
Starts to
We understand.
depreciate.
But you still need to get around. We live in a
Mhm.
city without a bus. We live in a city that is 30 miles from the next city. You don't have a car,
Right.
you're stuck, right? And sometimes
Absolutely.
out west, right, we've got these large open spaces before you get to the next little town. So, car is vital. All right. So, looking at everything again, see how the craziness is happening here. Look over here. I think putting that investment to fix the car is a better option. We don't have this debt. We're not going to have a credit pull, blah, 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 right? So, looking at that. So, it feels right now temporary short goal, but if I'm looking outwardly, I'm thinking I just probably gave us an opportunity with 5 more years with that vehicle. That's pretty good because here's the choice. I can't say, whew, I got 5 more years. If something happens later, I'll deal with it then.
Mhm.
Now I've got more years. What am I going to do now? Saving, planning for when the 5 years are up. I have a plan that can happen with this vehicle. So it's just thinking beyond. And I love that idea of the goal setting and putting something
Mhm.
out there, working backwards. And, I'm sure there's lots of different ways. And I loved how you said, one, the one way is for that one individual based on what they
Right.
have. They understand what maybe their background knowledge is,
Mhm.
their baby steps. And for others, that's not a great idea for that particular person. So I really appreciate the dropping the generality of this
Absolutely.
plan can be on everybody. I think
Yeah.
there's some general things of saving money and of spending money
Absolutely.
because those things are going to
Right.
happen. But how, where, with who, what to invest in, what not to, that's really the individual. So are those the kinds of things we can find within the book?
Absolutely. A couple things I wanna talk about when you're talking about the transportation and, I call that chapter in crisis. So there is some information that if you are in a crisis situation, and I talk a little bit about, Dave Ramsey calls it the four walls, and their transportation is one of them. The four walls are the four key things that you need to put in place first if you're in a crisis situation. It's food, shelter, transportation, utilities. Some of that can be, and I do address this in the book, that medication and some things can be considered a necessity. And I say it throughout the book. You get to decide what your 4 or 5 walls are. So you might want a roof. Medication and medical might be a roof. So that is one thing I address. The other thing I address in the savings chapter is what we call an emergency fund. And what you're talking about with your vehicle is you do have a vehicle, but as we have homes and vehicles and appliances, different things that need maintenance, an emergency fund, which is a type of savings that you get to decide what it's for. It can be for the things that crop up in emergencies. It can be if you have a business and you are worried about lost income. It can be for whatever you decide it is for, and you can begin to build that fund so that if things crop up and they do happen, as they do in life, that you have a fund there to cover that. And I talk about where to get money to fund it and how to fund it. So I talk about that in addition to a couple other savings, short-term savings and long-term savings. So that is definitely covered in the book. My No More Money Diets chapter covers spending plans and how you can figure out for you what are your needs, wants, and expenditures. So yeah, a lot of that's all detailed. I try to cover all those bases of the basic money topics and have them discussed in a way that you get to decide for you. You get to choose what's right for you. So there's an education piece, so you have enough information and education so that you can make informed decisions for yourself about your money and feel empowered. Because what that does, April, a lot of people feel they're not confident about their money, and they feel embarrassed about what they've done with their money. And so learning in this way, and it's really simplified ways that you can easily learn, gives you the confidence and the motivation to really take responsibility and, create these situations that you want and the freedom that you want with your money.
Excellent. You mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that part one is an extension of your TED talk.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we have a TED speaker here, and I have seen it and is incredible. So share a little bit about that adventure in your TED talk, what happened there, and kind of some stories that are now impacting this particular book.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the reason I actually wrote the book, okay, so let's start with I never really wanted to write a book. I'm a speaker that writes, and so I really wanted to have a workbook because I like doing worksheets, and I'm very action oriented, and I like people to implement things. So I really wanted to have a workbook. And then when I was talking with the publisher, they said, "No, you really want a book," and so I moved into writing a book. So I was actually years ago going to write a business book. So it was going to be about business owners, entrepreneurs, because I work with them also, about their money and their mindset and how to create systems, and very similar to what I'm teaching individuals, but for their business so that they could be successful. Because the truth is, if you can't manage your money personally, you take that behavior into your business. And so I was wanting to help people understand their money so they could better manage their business. And then I decided to do this TED Talk. And the reason I talk about it in the book, there's a very specific moment where I made the decision to, apply for this topic for this TED Talk. And so then I did the TED Talk. And then the reason I did the book on the TED topic was because so many people had so much to say about my TED Talk. And during the process of creating the TED Talk, I would tell people I was doing a TED Talk on financial dependency, and they're like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then when I told them what the definition was, everyone had a story. So everyone had a story, but they weren't talking about it. And that kind of theme bled through my whole experience with TED. And then afterwards, when people saw the TED Talk, every person that ever says anything to me says it's either my story or somebody else's story, or you shared my story. Or so because of that, and because so many people aren't talking about this topic, I decided to write the book. So that was really the impetus behind the book, was to expand on the topic and bring that message in to the world, because it's kind of one of those catch-22s. In order to, and I talk about this in the book in the support chapter, in order to get past this issue in our lives, we have to get information about it. And if we're not talking about it and we're hiding from it and it's invisible, then it can't be solved. So this is really to get the word out about this issue, to make it okay to talk about it. I share a lot about my life and my marriage and situations in my whole life. So it takes me to be vulnerable and authentic enough to share our stories, so that it gives permission for others to do the same. And then we can start a dialogue, and then we can start healing some of these issues and start moving forward.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay, so tell us when this book is coming out. You mentioned again at the beginning about a book launch. So, like next week, in 2 years,
Nope.
like what are we talking about?
So book launch is scheduled for January. Right now, because you know how books are, April, you set a date and sometimes it shifts, but right now it looks like the week of the 23rd of January. So, and I'm not, it's ready to go. It's in interior design and it's ready to go, but I didn't want to release it now because right now I'm talking very much about conscious spending for the holidays. So I didn't want to. I know people are spending, and it's Black Friday coming up, so it wasn't the time to release the book. But it will be in the beginning of the year. So I will be talking about how to spend consciously this holiday, so you don't have a holiday hangover. And if you do, then we're going to, talk about our finances in January. So it'll be launching in January, and I'm going to be doing a couple fun things. I have a launch group right now, and you can go to my website, and it's scrolling there, and sign up for the launch group. There's a lot of things I'm in the launch group sharing, behind the scenes information, and I'm going to be doing some videos and webinars and bonus materials. So if you want to be a part of the launch group, that's great. During the launch week, I'm going to have a couple different periods. There will be a short period of time when the ebook will be free. So go to my website and sign up for updates, because then you can be notified of when the book is free. And then I'm also offering a program called Each One Reach One, where for
Hey, let me
99
write that down.
cents,
Hang on.
each
Each
one,
one
yeah, reach
reach one. Okay.
one.
Sorry.
Yeah, because so many people have shared with me that they want to get the book for someone else. So I'm going to be offering it, for a very reduced price, where people can buy the ebook version of the book, the Kindle version, and gift it to people. Kindle allows you to buy up to 20 copies. So you'll be able to buy codes that you can email to people, and they will get a copy of the book for free as your gift. So to stay tuned, and you can sign up for updates on my website. I'd love to be able to keep you apprised of what's going on, and there'll be lots of information coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks as the book launch gets closer and closer. And I'm super excited about getting this book in the hands of people. And I love what you do, April, where you're giving it to shelters. I'll be working with definitely a local shelter here, and I'll be contacting the YWCA, who in Dayton, Ohio, where I live, has the largest domestic violence shelter in the county. So I'll be talking with them to try to get books in their hands and in places and with people that really need it. So
It is so true. Just to jump on what you said, the financial dependency that I suffered through before I was able to get divorced and escape, part of the plan was I knew I needed to have enough to live on. What was
yes,
I going to do? And making that plan and then implementing it was huge. And I I couldn't have asked for any better way than once I started to assign that topic and that idea, and I started to get some income and save that, and we were able to finally break free. So it was incredible. So I think that so many in a situation like that, we've got a lot of trauma happening. You've got a really low understanding of self-worth and money and spending, or I don't have, or fear, and then hoarding, and then not, and over. There's just this crazy cycle. So if they can get and receive a book like yours and start setting up and breaking old habits,
absolutely.
beautiful idea for the future, and that generation hopefully will improve from where their parents were, and so on and so forth. So that is thrilling. So thank
Yay.
you for doing all that. That's incredible. Again, her book is called Poor by Choice. Poor by Choice. And you can go to her website, go ahead and get on there's a list, correct?
Yep.
And it launches out in January around the 23rd. So
Yep.
we're going to be looking for that. And don't have a holiday hangover with your money.
Yes.
Be, if you need any help with that, contact her. We've got it running on the ticker underneath.
Yep.
And just thank you, everyone, for being patient with us as we came on a Thursday evening. We are so grateful for everyone to jump in. So again, Estelle, give us that website one more time.
EstelleGibson.com. Yep. And you
And you
can find information right there on the home page. Under author is the Pour by Choice information. Just click through, and you can sign up and get updates and bonuses and all kinds of information as we move forward towards the big launch day.
Awesome. Thank you again so very much. Thank you all
Thank
for joining in
you.
and participating. This has been a wonderful evening, and we will see you next Tuesday. Unless life happens again. No, should just be fine. So thank you everyone for being a great support of the Beacon of Light podcast. And thank you, Estelle. And we will all see you later. Bye, everybody.